Good morning. Hey, good to see you all on this Thursday morning. Hope everybody made it through okay the other day. Looks like it wasn't as big as they thought it was going to be, although there are some remnants that now with the temperatures dropping have just fallen to ice. So hopefully you got all of your stuff scraped up, and if you had to drive, you drove nice and calmly, nice and slowly, and you didn't spin out or do anything like that. Okay, just a couple of things before we go ahead and move on. Number one, people, unless I say you're doing a speech, you do not video, okay? Yes, the YouTube channel, we've got 2 big formal speeches coming up later on in the semester. That's when you'll use your YouTube account again. Otherwise, when you're just doing the 15-point assignments, it's a written assignment, okay? Also, just so you know what the point total maximum are for each of your major assignments, and then we have those 10, 15-point assignments. That's all part of your class participation. So what these assignments are, we're going to have a bunch of them here leading up to the exam, and then, of course, when we get into the speeches, we're going to put more focus on working on putting those speeches together. So that'll give you an idea. If we're not on Moodle, but you'll always know where you stand in this class. You hand something in, I grade it, give it right back to you. All right? If it's just one of the 15-point assignments, I'll say got it or okay, or I'll accept it, especially because I don't know what happened with the Chapter 1 assignment. Some of you did it and forgot all about the Billy scenario, completely omitted it. I don't know why, but that's okay. I accepted it anyway. But one of the things I do want to point out, and I know that when I was in undergrad, but especially in grad school in communication, be careful, people, because you never know in the future when you have a professor who, if you don't read the directions to an assignment, they will take points away. So, for the future, starting today, okay, make sure you're reading the directions to an assignment. All right, so this way you don't miss anything. Now, with Chapter 1, there were a lot of really good examples. A lot of you guys were talking about, a scenario where it was a psychological reason why you didn't listen to somebody, or you had a tough time listening to somebody for physiological. I know a lot of you talked about fevers and sickness, or stubbing your toe or something like that, or especially, like I said, if you really have just finished a 24-ounce mochata, or you've been sitting in class and you know you're going to go to the bathroom at the end of class, and then suddenly, as you're running to the bathroom, who's in the hallway but that person you graduated high school with you haven't seen in 3 years, and they want to have a class reunion right there and then. All right? And there's no way you're listening to anything they're saying. You're just like, and then you run into the bathroom. So, that there were some really great examples. Oh, and by the way, for the Billy scenario, the 3 types of external noise that I was looking for in that scenario, remember, anything that disrupts the sharing of meaning is noise. Okay? Number 1, of course, the music. I mean, come on. Does anybody play Nickelback anymore? All right. But Billy playing the music loud, 1. Number 2, a closed door. A closed door is a part of external noise because it's a disruption. I mean, have you ever seen somebody who goes up to a closed door and they say, "Hey, listen, I got to talk to you about something," and they faintly hear from the other side of the door, "I can't hear you," and then they go up to the keyhole and they say, "I got to talk to you about something," like that little keyhole is going to transmit that message clearly. Hello? Yes, a closed door. But then finally, and there were only about 2 people who hit on this one. And I was a little surprised. Maybe there was a couple more who hinted at this, but 2 people did get this one. But the 3rd type of external noise, and I know this well because unfortunately in my family I've seen it way too many times, the physical distance. Where Billy's up on the 2nd floor and Mom is on the 1st floor. Come on, think about it. In just the last week alone, how many of you have been witness to or been a part of a conversation where one person's on one floor of the house and one person on the other floor? And then tell me how many of you that communication between the person on the 2nd floor and the 1st floor was 100% flawless. Absolutely not. The one word that is typically used in that conversation many times is what? 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 And that's my favorite part. Is sometimes people think that if you take the word what and stretch it out, that actually helps. What? But yes, physical distance is also a part of the external noise in the Billy scenario. So hopefully you guys look at that and say, oh yeah, of course, duh. But don't forget, people, especially a lot of you who forgot to put in the Billy scenario, make sure you're reading the directions. All right, I want to move on now to Chapter 2. Now, Chapter 2 deals with something very interesting. It deals with us communicating based on what we feel we know to be true, or to be right, or to be correct. And it's based on what we perceive. And that's what we call perception. Perception is when we communicate based on what we feel we know to be true, right, and correct. You know, what we perceive. Okay? And perception works into our communication, whether it's communication we're initiating or when we communicate back to someone. And we've done this before, where somebody communicates to us, and it could be just asking a question or saying something to us, making a statement, and like their tone of voice, and we perceive like, are they angry with me about something? What did you say? And you might answer that way because you're perceiving that they're angry at you. And of course you might be completely wrong, okay? But that's perception. Now, our perception, or how we form what we perceive, what we feel we know to be true, right, or correct, there's a lot of different factors that go in to form what we perceive, what we feel we know to be true, right, and or correct. But the single, almost overwhelming factor that forms what we perceive is our own experiences. And unfortunately, we'll fall back on that way too often. That we'll fall back on our experiences to form our perception, or what we feel we know to be true, and that'll lead to perceptual errors. Especially when it comes to people. Because a lot of times when it comes to people, we'll generalize without regard to unique individual characteristics. What did I just give you the definition for? You got it. Stereotyping. We will stereotype people. When we communicate, we do it based on our perception. Again, whether it's communication we initiate, or if we're responding to someone, we'll stereotype. And we stereotype in a lot of different ways. Okay? We stereotype based on ethnicity, cultural background, skin color, religious beliefs, geographic location. Oh, you're from Alabama? Oh, you must marry to your sister. Okay? I mean, we do that all kinds of ways that we stereotype people, and a lot of it's based on our own experiences. Okay? And you'd be surprised on how you could be stereotyped. Let's go back 22 years and 40 pounds ago. Okay? When I was in a little better shape than I am now. I'm a brand new faculty member at Bergen. It's 1999. And back then, when you wanted to show a film in class, you had to go to the media center and you had to pick up a television. And I don't know if anybody's ever heard of this. It's called a VCR, video cassette recorder. Yeah, we didn't have those smart rooms back then. We weren't streaming. And the only thing that was streaming was that little brook in the back of the college. There was a stream. So I go down. Remember, this is 1999. It's my very first semester. I go down and pick one of those up, and this guy's never seen me before. So he says to me, he says, you have a faculty ID? Oh, yeah, sure. My brand new faculty ID card. I show it to him. He says, okay. So I take it out. I bring it back about 2.5 hours later. Well, now as I'm wheeling it back in, he knows I'm a faculty member. So he just looks at me and he says, so, what do you teach? Phys ed? And I looked at him and I said, no! And I stormed out. Now, the reason why I got upset is I felt he stereotyped me. That because I looked a certain way, because of course my chest was a little bigger and my waist was smaller, that if I looked a certain way, then I would only be eligible to teach phys ed. Okay? But then I started to think about it. And I started to think, well, maybe if I go back to what I teach in this very chapter, maybe he's just basing it on his own person. It's a perceptual error. He didn't purposely stereotype me. He just made a perceptual error. Maybe, as he's growing up through like middle school and high school, your gym teachers looked a certain way, and your science teachers and English teachers looked a certain way. Even at Bergen, we have chemistry teachers who look like chemistry teachers. At Bergen, we have English professors who look like English professors. And then if you go to the Wellness and Exercise Science Department, you got 50, 60-year-old people who, when they go out for lunch, they run 5 miles. Or for those of you who have had a WEX class before, a very good friend of mine, Julie Sita, who just had her second son, right before she got pregnant with her second son, she did her first ever triathlon. So I could understand, and I thought maybe, well, all right, so he wasn't purposely stereotyping me. Maybe it was a perceptual error based on his own experience. And I went to go apologize to him, but he got fired 2 weeks later, so I didn't care. Anyway, so now that's what perception is. So what I want you to do is, as you see in the attachment, there's your written assignment, okay? And I want you to tell me in detail a time where you were stereotyped, where somebody stereotyped you, and then when you mistakenly stereotyped someone else. And I'll give you a great example. Going back about 15, 16 years ago, some of you may not remember because you were much younger, but some of you will. The number one TV show, most talked about television show in America, was HBO's The Sopranos. All right? At one time, when they opened up, I think their 5th season, for HBO on a Sunday night, they scored like 18 million viewers. It was amazing for a paid channel to get those kind of viewers. And of course, one of the biggest aspects of the popularity around here was the fact, number one, we have so many Italian Americans around here, but number two, they shot scenes everywhere. You could be walking into any of our neighborhoods here in Bergen County, and you'd stumble upon the set of The Sopranos. In Lyndhurst, the place where my parents got married, they shot quite a few scenes up on Ridge Road. And of course, Bergen Community College. Okay? The theater at Bergen was used for an episode of The Sopranos. So I had this one Italian-American student, and we were talking about our Italian heritage, because I am 60% Italian myself, and I just right off the tongue, oh, you must love The Sopranos, huh? And he, of course, lost all motion in his face. And what happened is not only was he not a fan of The Sopranos, because he did not like the negative stereotype that portrayed all Italians as, doom-coughs who, know nothing but, dealing drugs to kids and that kind of thing, which is really what the mafia is. But he was part of a group, an Italian-American group, that actually protested The Sopranos and actually got The Sopranos banned from shooting in some places, I think in Essex County and some other places. So I was like, whoa, I guess I made a little mistake here. Sometimes there are people who love the Godfather movies and sometimes they're not. So that's your assignment. Go ahead and do that. You have till Sunday night at 8 p.m. to finish your assignment. Of course, this is one of your 15-point class participation assignments. All right? You guys have a terrific weekend, and I look forward to seeing your answers and try to get them in before Sunday night, if you can. Thanks.